All right, so jumping right in. First question, just real quick. How did you meet your wife?
Is there an order here?
Nah, go whoever wants to talk.
Alright, I guess I'll go first. Let's see. How old were we? I think we were teenagers and we met. Anybody go to Maywood? Anybody ever been to Maywood? We both been going our whole life, but we never really saw each other. And then one Sunday showed up. First day of camp, there she was. Thought she was pretty. Went over and talked to her, introduced myself, and I don't even think she liked me for a while. It took some convincing. But I met her at Maywood Christian Camp, and I think that was kind of a key piece of our relationship, because I met her where I did, led us to a healthy relationship that worked out pretty well. So my parents actually met at Maywood too, so maybe there's something in the water over there. I don't know.
So y'all should go there. No, go ahead.
Well, I've been going to school at Ripley all time, kindergarten through 12, and Linda started coming in the 7th grade. And so we were in school together from 7th grade through high school, but we never did really pay attention to each other till we were seniors. We were on a double date, but she was not my date, and one of my friends here at church was her date. We went bowling at New Albany, and I talked to Linda more that night than with my date, and then from after that I started going with her.
All right, so there, some answers are better than others. Some answers are good ways to meet, and others are not so good. Mine's not so good. So I met my wife in the back seat of a car, but I need to explain that a little bit. So, yeah, so she went to a different school than I did, and I had a good friend of mine who was dating her brother, my wife's brother, and they're actually married now as well. And she kind of set us up. My wife was needing a date for a party that they were having, and I didn't really want to go. She was a little bit younger than me. I wasn't really excited about it, and I was like, I'll do it, but I don't want to. Because you're my friend, I'll go. So we got to her house, and I was, guys, don't do this. When you go on a date, you get out and you go to the front door and you meet the parents and you shake their hand and all that. And I didn't do that. I sat in the car because I didn't want to be there. And anyway, so he went and got her. She came in, got in the car, and after that, I acted right because I guess I realized that, hey, I better up my game because she's kind of cute. So anyway, that was how we met. We actually went to the party, and we weren't there very long, and she kind of grabbed my hand, and I thought, wow, she really likes me. And then I found out later it was only because we were walking past her ex-boyfriend. Yeah.
That sounds like something she did, but I really wish that you would have just left it at that one statement. That was good. Yeah. So, describe your first date with your wife.
Oh, I jumped too far ahead, I guess.
No, if that was it. There you go.
First date, let's see. Well, I got to explain a little bit because we met in July, and I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, but we didn't go on our first date for another 6 months. So we talked every day, but I don't know if I was chicken or she was, one of the two. And we went on a date, I guess it was around December. And I was nervous, she was nervous, so we got all our friends together. That's the old trick, you get all your friends together so you don't be nervous. But we had a big group from Maywood, and we all got together, hung out, went to Abner's in Tupelo, went to a movie afterwards, and I remember I had to go pick her up because she couldn't drive at the time, and I had to meet her dad. Like, first time I ever stayed at her house, I had to meet Randy Wall, which y'all know Randy, he's something else. So he's kind of a taller man.
Owns a lot of guns.
Owns a lot of guns. And actually, I had to walk by a safe to get to him, a gun safe. So
has a lot of land.
Yeah,
he never finds you.
It was kind of intimidating. I cannot lie, but I tried my best to look him in the eye, shake his hand, let him know I'm not a complete idiot, which I'm sure he thought I was at the time. And then, you know, I took her, we went on a date. We had a good first date, I think, and I guess it went all right. She wanted to do the second one, but when I remember having to drive all the way. I lived in Moorville. She lives in Inglemoor at the time, so it was a pretty good drive. And I think I remember we had to push it a little bit to get there before her curfew or whatever. And but it went good, and we got to have a second date, so I guess it went all right.
We really consider our first date the one where we more or less met, the bowling part. But I guess after that one, we probably may have went to a ball game or something. But I think our first date was the one that was with different people.
That's a good story. All right, so maybe y'all didn't go out on dates all the time, but what kind of things did you do together, or when you did go on dates, what did y'all do?
You skipped him.
Oh, he told his.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Now ours were pretty normal stuff. You know, we'd like to, of course, you know, finances impacted some of that. We would go eat, go to a movie, sometimes one or the other because we couldn't afford both. You know, we did a lot of stuff with friends, double dates, that kind of stuff. You know, we just kind of normal things. I don't think we go to some ball games. We had her family had some land, so occasionally. You know, we'd go. We spent a lot of time with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, her brother, and we go down to the ride four-wheelers and that kind of stuff. But pretty normal stuff.
Well, we'd go to ball games. We would be with family a lot of times. I mean, I'd go down to her house and just enjoy some good apple pie. Her mother could make a real good apple pie. But some of the better dates, I guess you'd say, was like we'd go to Memphis to a concert or something like that. We've seen the Beach Boys and the Monkees, and they may not know who that is. Like he said, the money, you know, you stayed close.
Yeah.
What do we do? We tried. I mean, like, we did the same normal things. I mean, I'm not that old, that much older. You know, like I said, I'm 25. But we went to the movies a lot. Went and just got something to eat. We didn't really go to each other's houses for a while when we first started dating. We always kind of met in two places. We lived so far apart.
And you were scared.
Yeah, that too. I didn't want to go back to the dad's house. But I mean, like I said, we did a lot of stuff with friends. This so happened somehow we had this big group of mutual friends, and somehow we just didn't know each other yet. So when we met, we hung out with those mutual friends a lot, and all those people that we hung out with were members of the church. So, you know, making good decisions really wasn't that hard at the time, and that helped us out a lot, especially at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, we had pretty normal dates. There's a lot of things looking back she did with me then that she hated. I know now she wouldn't tell me. Like, she went mud riding with me a couple times, and she won't do that now, I'm pretty sure. And then I drag her to a bunch of ball games, and then finally I would get married. She's like, I don't really like going to the ball games. So I'm finding out now I drug her to a lot of stuff she didn't want to do, but she acted like she enjoyed it at the time. So
I could never see her mud riding, ever.
Mud ride?
All right, so now that they've kind of got to know y'all a little bit, a couple of opinion questions here. How old do you think a person should be before they start going on dates? As a guy with 2 daughters.
Yeah, that's kind of that's a tough one. I'll tell you about my kids. I've got an 18-year-old daughter. She's about to graduate from high school. And I've got a 15-year-old son, and then I've got a 13-year-old daughter. So I've had one of the daughters go, through the dating thing. I was fortunate. She has a boyfriend now that they've been dating for about a year, but when she sort of hit that 14, 15, 16, it really wasn't an issue. She just didn't have a lot of interest in the guys that were around, so I didn't have to cross that bridge. But I made with the other one. I think it depends on the kind of date. As a general rule of thumb, I feel a lot better with my daughters going out. If they're going out on a date with somebody driving, if they're old enough to be able to drive home if something bad happens, I won't say I won't let my youngest go out with a guy when she's 15, but I'll have to think about it when it's that kind of date. Now, family get-togethers and that sort of thing. And I think at a younger age, if your parents take you and you meet at a movie, and they pick them up and bring them home, that kind of thing. It depends, but it's definitely not something that they need to really rush into. If that helps. And I'm feeling my way through it. Like I said, I haven't crossed some of those bridges, even though I've got an 18-year-old.
I don't know, I'd say probably around 15, 16. Back in our time, I think you got your license at 15. And was really able to, well, I didn't have a car. It was our family car that I'd use to pick her up. But yeah, I'd say probably need your license.
Let's see. Well, I mean, I'm trying to think like what was my process. I didn't have that issue because I didn't have any girls interested in me in junior high or high school. But I mean, in junior high, I think I did. I went on like a little date, but my parents had to take me to the movies, and her parents had to take her to the movies, and there were other friends there and things like that. And that was fine. Looking back, I mean, definitely was a lot of parents around all the time, things like that, grown up. So, I mean, I wouldn't say at 7th grade or 8th grade you're really ready to be alone with the opposite sex, but I mean, it's perfectly normal to be crushing on somebody and want to go and hang out with them. And like I said, when we were younger, we always hung out with friends for the most part anyways. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at any age. But yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, like they said, kind of 15, you were old enough to drive, you're really probably old enough to start really dating. I mean, you're 13 years old, you may think you know, but you don't really know what you're looking for yet anyway, so.
All right. So, as a Christian, what would you say is the purpose of a Christian teen dating?
Well, the purpose of dating is you date to marry. That's what I've always been told, and that's what I always believe. If you're dating somebody because they're the coolest person in school or whatever, or you find them attractive, like, it's just not. There has to be more. Why waste your time? That's what I always kind of thought. Like, I had crushes on girls that I wouldn't have dated. I guess if that makes sense. But why waste your time? And I've had that conversation with some friends of mine who were dating some people I didn't think we did. When you step back and look at it, probably shouldn't be dating. And if you're not dating to marry them, if you're just dating to have a good time or whatever, then I don't think that's, as a Christian, I don't think that should be your purpose. Your purpose should be, I'm looking for a spouse. And I know at 14, 15, that's not what you think about, but like I said, why are you dating if that's not what you're looking? Because one day the person you marry is going to be the father or the mother of your children. Like, that's a big deal. So why waste your time with any other purpose?
Well, when you're in school around the other kids, I mean, you probably know most of them, the ones to stay away from, the ones to that are good people. Like he said, don't waste your time on a bad one that you know. Just because it might be popular or something, that's not the route you want to go. You want to pick a good person.
Yeah, it's hard. There's a fine line there. Like you said, at 14, 15, 16, even 17, most people are not thinking about getting married and that kind of thing. But on the other hand, if whoever you're dating is somebody that you may fall for, and if that person is not someone who you would want to be the mother or father of your children, you can get yourself in trouble there. I think dating you is spending time with friends, and you spend a little more time with one person or the other because you sort of you enjoy being with them or whatnot. I think you're constantly feeling out it. What is this person like? Is this person somebody I could see being with down the road? I don't think you've got to say I want to marry that person, and if not, you can't be with them. You got to date them. You got to feel that out. It's a learning experience. I've dated several girls, high school and a little bit in college that I learned a lot from. Things what I liked and didn't like, and you learn lessons along the way. So you got to. It's important to do that a little bit, but you don't want to date a bad person ever under any circumstances.
All right. So with this one, how much we're kind of looking at an obsession kind of thing, but how often should you go on dates? What's a healthy amount? What's not enough, and what is too much time to spend together in high school?
Well, I told y'all a while ago, I do teach high school right now, so I see a lot of, I see everything. I mean, y'all may not know, the teachers know a lot more than y'all think we know. But, you need to be able, everybody knows the type of people that always feel like they need somebody. You don't always need somebody. You shouldn't have to have somebody just to make you happy. I totally forgot what the question was. You help me out.
How much is too much time to spend?
Yeah, too much time. There we go. So what I'm saying is, and you may see it with girls more often than guys, but you don't have to be around them all the time in order to be happy, because for one, it might not work out, and then you're left with a broken heart, and that's not good for one. But you need to learn how to be independent, because I mean, we're married and we're not together over 50% of the day. We just meet back together at the end of the day, and we talk about important things throughout the day. But we're busy, we're not constantly blowing up each other's phone and around each other all the time. You need to. One thing I'll say is I've lost friends that felt that once they got a girlfriend or boyfriend, nobody else mattered in the world, and I'm sure parents have felt like they've been excluded from their own children's life before. So, keep the people that were already important in your life, keep them important. Don't. It's great to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, but don't forget about the people that you already had that were always there for you.
Yeah, you don't need to ever be defined by the person that you're dating. We sort of have kept a rule on at my house. This is the way I was brought up, and I resented it a little bit at the time, but I understand it now as a parent. With my daughter, we sort of, with some exceptions, we've encouraged or almost, made her go out, on a date one night a weekend, and the other nights you need to go spend time with your friends. You need to go do something else, spend time with your family, to kind of have be well-rounded. Because it's like I said, you don't want to lose friends along the way, and then suddenly you break up, and then you don't have friends left, and sometimes you've heard the phrase with familiarity breeds contempt. Sometimes you can there's too much of a good thing, and as time goes on, you get closer to being married, those things may change, but early on, it's if you're with somebody that demands all of your time, constantly wants to be with you, and doesn't want you to branch out and be with your friends, you're probably with the wrong person. You need to look long and hard, think long and hard about that, because that's going to cause problems down the road. I promise you. I've seen it. I've seen it a lot, and you've seen it in school, I'm sure.
Well, with us, we really didn't have a big choice. We, of course, saw each other at school, and like I say, I didn't have a car. We'd get the family car on the weekend, so about our only time was Friday and Saturday nights. It wasn't, it was school during the week.
Something I've told y'all over and over again is cliches are cliches for a reason. If you hear something over and over and over again, you probably should pay attention to it and just about everybody that's 6 people have been asked, just about every one of them has said something about ignoring other people because of that relationship, and that's one of the reasons we do this. I feel like I get something I can point to that every week, but that's a really neat thing. So, just some general questions. On a first date, what are some good topics to discuss? For people like Luke who are scared when they go on dates.
Yeah, when I was on the first date, I was I mean, we can talk about normal stuff. Like I said, we were with Christian friends. I already knew she was a Christian, and based off her parents had stalked me on Facebook and everything when they found out my name and tried to see what they was like, calling church members that knew me and that they knew and everything. So, and I kind of did my research about her, so I didn't have to ask the general questions. What's important to you? What are your religious values, things like that. We kind of figured that out pretty quick. What do we talk about? I don't remember what we talked about. That was a long time ago. We dated for almost 7 years, so that was a while back. But just keep it appropriate. That's really all I'll say.
Main thing I got out of that is watch what you put on social media.
True.
Because your girlfriend or boyfriend's parents might be stalking you today. Aaron, do you have anything? Feel free to speak up anytime. Do you have
I
anything?
think you can definitely tell what the other person talks about, what kind of person they are. I mean, you can kind of judge somebody what's important to them based on what they talk about and how they portray themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think you have to delve into, deep theology right out of the gate. But I think I think you figure out, what are your interests, what do you like to do, carry on general conversation about whatever you're doing, whatever movie you saw, that kind of thing, and you can, you figure out 2 things. One is, does this personality seem like one that I want to spend more time with? And sometimes they're not a bad person, but you just realize, that's not, not somebody I want to go out on a date with again. But then you also figure out, you get a glimpse into that person's heart and who they are by the way they talk and what they say. Are they using vulgar language? Are they, gossiping? Are they, being a smart aleck? Are they, talking about everybody else? Are they really negative? Are they, whatever? They want to talk about all their past boyfriends or girlfriends and that kind of stuff. You can figure out a lot just with general conversation, but you need to have conversation. You don't want to just sit there and look at each other.
Man, I don't know. This is 50 years ago. We just talked about normal things. I probably asked if her mother had an apple pie ready or something.
He's pretty stuck on that apple pie.
Yeah.
You have anything to add? All right. Okay, so you might give us a little background. I know we heard from Luke that they both met at Maywood, or they both attended Maywood, so they were both already knew kind of where they were, but give a little background on you and your wife, where you grew up going to church. You already said you grew up going here, but if the person you are dating is not a Christian, or at least not a member of the church, at what point do you think you need to have that conversation, or do you need to have that conversation?
Well, you definitely need to have a conversation at some point. Like I said, with Erin, it's funny how it worked. I did date a few girls before her, and it never worked out. But the first one I dated, I was a Christian, and I'm not married to, so I think there's something to that. But what's the question again?
It's funny, your brother did the same thing a couple times last week.
We're from the same genes.
If the person you're dating is not a member of the church.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did date some girls that weren't a member of the church first, but the things I looked for is whatever faith they had, were they strong in? Like, whatever denomination it was still attractive to me. The fact they were strong in what they did believe in, because I can work with that. If you're willing to agree that the Bible is written with divine inspiration of God, and that is the most important thing in your life, I can work with that. We can talk that out. So it's not a requirement, in my opinion, to be a Christian. But at some point, if you were in that situation, it definitely needs to come up. I wouldn't bring it up in the first couple weeks. I mean, you kind of get a feel for what they think is important. I wouldn't dive into the most controversial topics in the second week of dating. It just won't go well. You have to build that rapport, and that's not just with your spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend. That's with anybody. You need to talk to them first and let them trust you before you dive into those topics that are going to hurt feelings. You don't realize it, but if you're trying to convert someone, you may be trying. You're undoing a whole life of. You're talking about their parents may believe this, their grandparents may have believed this, their great-grandfather may have been a preacher at the church down the road. Like, there's a lot to untie when you go to do something like that. So you need to be very careful. But the best example I have would have been my brother, who I'm sure told you all about it last week. His wife was not she went to the Church of God, and they were very strong in what they believed in. And I remember that he told me, he said they sat down early and said, the Bible is the most important thing. You and I are going to sit down and we're going to figure out what the Bible says, and whatever it says, we're going to do. And they both agreed to that, and eventually she was converted. So, like I said, I wouldn't bring it up early, right away, as long as they're strong in what they believe in. But at some point, it definitely needs to come up. And if the answer is negative, if they're not willing to listen to what you have to say, then that's a big red flag. And that will be, if they're not even willing to acknowledge, you pretty much have to let it go at that point, which is hard if you wait too long. You don't want to wait 2 years and bring that up, because now you may be in love with somebody who it may never really work out the way you want it to.
I want to highlight something he said there. He talked about if they're strong in their faith, and then he said give it a couple weeks and find out what's important to them. So in a couple weeks, if that hasn't come up, it's probably not important to them. So, very good point.
Well, like I said, I grew up in the church, and Linda grew up in the Baptist church, little community south of here, Cotton Plant. And when we were dating, I would go to her church with her and meetings and stuff. And she would come here. She would come to church here, and back and forth. And Brother Malcolm George was a minister here, and he married us. And then not long after that, Linda was baptized. So we've been together ever since.
So y'all kind of had the conversation that maybe it was important, but not necessarily the sit down, let's talk about the doctrine kind of thing.
No, not really. It's sort of, I don't know if you'd say give and take. I mean, it wasn't like my way or the highway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I say, I went to her church.
Yeah.
She came here, and it worked out.
I think that's something to take note of.
We had a very similar experience. My wife, she grew up in the Baptist church. Her dad was and is a deacon in the Baptist church, and we did some of that. You know, we had a lot of the same core beliefs, and you know that you focus on what the common ground there at first for a long time, and then there weren't a lot of differences there, and then as gradually as time went on, we had conversations. You know, she asked questions, I asked questions. I had sit-down conversations with her dad. He and I, had our Bibles out talking about different things, and over a period of time, she changed her mind and became a member of the Church of Christ, and here we are. But had I come in and said, like you said, my way or the highway, it would have been the highway. It was. I think if you find somebody that you really like and they're a good person and they're strong in whatever their faith is, your best way to handle that is to focus on the common ground and what you have in common, and you sort of can gently work through all that and get to where you need to get to. That's my advice based on personal experience, which worked out for me. So.
Okay, you kind of touched on it and put it a good way. Help me to say this, but if somebody is kind of my way or the highway in the way that they think, how long would you try to work on that, and How long would you stay in that relationship? What kind of steps would you take with that?
It would, for me, it would depend on the conversations and how they were going. Is there any progress being made here, or is it just a fight every time the topic comes up? Because like I said, that they have to be willing to talk to you. But one thing I'll say is, you know, if you have that conversation and it doesn't go well, and it doesn't go well for months, but you've been dating for 3 or 4 years, and this was the person you had planned on marrying, and that's a big problem. And we've probably all seen that at some point. That can be a big problem. Be very careful, because we know what the Bible teaches about marriage. You know, once you make that decision, there's really there shouldn't be any going back. So be careful. I'm not saying, like I said, my way or the highway is kind of a bad way to think about it, but at some point there has to be a common ground, because you don't want to end up taking your kids to church by yourself for the rest of your life because they think something else. Or I've seen people that go to one denomination one Sunday and then go with the other parent on the next Sunday, and that just confuses the kids. I mean, they're not going to learn the way they could have. So I guess what I would say is, if that doesn't work out, don't put all your happiness in that one person. There's somebody else. There'll be somebody else out there that you might end up having a more successful marriage with.
Speaking of there's somebody else out there, I actually looked up this statistic today because I was thinking about it. You know, there's a lot of different reasons, but and you get locked into this one person, and this, you know, yeah, they've got 47 flaws, but I'm afraid there's nobody else out there for me, or whatever. There's in the United States right now, there are 10 million people, 10 million girls between the age of 15 and 19, and 10 million boys between the age of 15 and 19. There's a lot of fish in the sea. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I actually looked up that number today because I was curious. So,
Did you keep count of your wife's flaws?
well, she doesn't have 47. I'm just saying like that.
Do you have anything to add there?
Well, I just believe at some point you would know that that it's not working. You'd get that feeling at some point there.
I'd say none of them, I mean, I don't think anybody has been able to give a time reference to that, because it's kind of one of those things that you kind of know, whether you want to accept the fact that you know it or not. I think this is a big one for when they go on dates. What kind of things that should they be looking for while they're on these dates? Anything that's a red flag, a good sign, any kind of interactions that's good to look for? Anything. Good, bad, or ugly?
I think you know, the way a person treats other people is huge. You can get a glimpse into a person's heart by the way they act, a lot more than sometimes what they say. You know, so I think you want to look at that closely. You know, their language is important, the way they act, the way they treat other people. And there's some other, you know, personality traits, but one thing I want to throw out there too, is you need to look at the person's family and the people you're going to be spending time with. I'm not saying that's a deal breaker. You may have the perfect match who just has an awful family and you're willing to deal with that, but it's a piece of the puzzle that you've got to factor in. It's a big piece, unless you're just planning on moving away somewhere. You know, and I think you look at the way that the person you're dating, the way they interact with their parents, how that interaction happens, because that's a glimpse into what's really going on that you may not see other places. I'm fortunate; I've got great in-laws, and you know, I spend a lot of time with my wife and her family. She spent a lot of time with my family, and we get along, and that's not always possible, but it's something to factor in there. Look at those family relationships, because that's where you're headed in some way, whether you like it or not.
I believe family is a big deal. If you don't want to bring the person home to meet your folks, that's a big red flag. If you're just going to meet at Walmart parking lot and so that they won't see your parents, that's not good. Family is a big part of it.
Or red flags and good signs that we're looking for.
Anything they should look for?
red flags. There's so many of them, really. I mean, like, I think today, in today's world, like I said, I teach high school. I'm not that much older than you guys. I know what conversations that are normal. And you can learn a lot from somebody in about 5 minutes listening to what they talk about, especially on a date. You know, if they're constantly making certain types of jokes and maybe they're flirtatious and to get your attention, but, you know, first dates, you definitely should not be talking that way. You should be extremely respectful at all times, but especially at the beginning. You know, it's only going to get worse. But I've sat around friends on dates where the date was talking about their sexual experiences and things like that, like red flag, right? I mean, that's a no-go. Especially, I mean, at that age, it's never, you know, a good thing. Obviously, it's always sinful. But at that age, like, that's a big red flag for me. If you're bragging about those things that you've done, we all make mistakes and we're all sinners, right? But if somebody's bragging about things they've done in the past, that's a big red flag for me. Aaron maybe remind me on the way. It would have been a big red flag to her if I hadn't had. It was just funny because you stayed in the car, but if I hadn't have introduced myself and if I had been, it's just funny because obviously
We all make mistakes.
yeah, we all make mistakes. That's right. But that's what she said. You know, she was like, you know, that would have been disrespectful, and it would have been more so a red flag with her father than it would have been with her. Aaron she would have known I would have just been nervous or whatever. But he's told me before I've earned his respect because I did that even though I was super nervous. But yeah, I mean, like I said, just pay attention to the things they talk about, who they hang out with. You are who you hang out with often, so if they're best friends or people you've been told to stay away from, then it's probably not too good. Good signs. Let's see some good signs.
Can I add one more red flag while you think
Yeah,
of good
go ahead.
signs? I was thinking about this and why I meant to say this. I said this when we did this in Amory, but girls, you know, it's probably not gonna happen first date, you know, but if you've been dating a while, if the guy, if there's any sign of any kind of aggression, if he ever pinches you, pushes you, grabs you, you know, bows up on you, any of that stuff, run for the hills. That's you're done. That's it. And I mean that 100%. I have seen it in my job over the years. It will not get better. It will only get worse. He's got a problem, and you can't fix it. So if you don't take anything else home with you today, take that home with you. Okay, that's really important. I feel very strongly about that, and I've told my girls that.
Good signs, I would say, like, this is just something you can learn about somebody real quick. I'm not saying they have to do this, but if I've learned you can learn a lot about somebody just like that if they pray for their food. Like, it's just something so simple, but when you see that, you automatically learn so much about them. You know, like if they stop and pray, or as a man, you know, you boys, you know, if you take time to pray for your meal with your date or something, if it's the right person, that should impress them. You're not doing it to impress them, but you learn a lot about them, and they learn a lot about you if that's something that you do. And like I said, it's not that they're wrong if they don't pray for their food, but you just learn if somebody does that, I automatically gain respect for anybody who does that. And I see that, and that's just something you can pick up just so easily. It's just to me so big deal. You're not a halfway Christian and taking the time to do those things, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's like, to me, that would be a really good sign. And then if God comes up, you know, you're not talking, like you said, not deep theology, but if it just comes up like, hey, you know, we were at a youth event last weekend and we were doing this, this, and this, or I was reading my Bible the other day and then I learned this, or if they bring it up, that's a good sign too. Because even if it's in your life, if you're a Christian, you're living a Christian life, there's going to be opportunities to speak about the things that you do that are a part of your Christian life.
What I'm hearing over and over again, in not so many words, is pay attention to what people talk about, because that's what they do and that's what's important to them. Megan only talks about the hospital, and I only talk about y'all because that's what we do all the time. So pay attention to what people talk about. It's a big thing there. So what situations should teens avoid while they are dating?
Being alone with the other. Yeah, it just makes things harder. You know, why put yourself in that situation? And as you get older, it just gets harder and harder and harder. And Aaron and I, like I said, Aaron and I dated for 7 years. 7 years is a very long time, and it wasn't always the best place for us to be in the back room with the door closed. Well, you know, why put yourself there? Every person has temptation, and everybody has different temptations. But why put yourself in such a place that's going to be so tempting for you? So that's a big one.
Stay away from bad group people. Just be with good people, and so the temptation won't be there, hopefully.
Yeah, there's two things I think. You know, the groups with a lot of bad stuff going on, you want to steer clear of that. You know, it's good to go on double dates and group dates and that kind of stuff, and spend time with family and those sort of things that can keep you out of trouble. That's the two things.
Another thing I'm sure that is a lot of difference from when we were dating and now is there's more temptation now than we had to face. I mean, you heard about people drinking, or you heard about people smoking. That was about it when we were coming up. But now then, meth and all this other that I don't even know what you call it, that they have to face nowadays, that'd be rough.
I want to add one thing on what I said. I wasn't trying to say you cannot be alone with them ever. Me and Aaron had to have conversations alone in order to really get to know each other. There's some things you don't bring up in front of other people, especially deep stuff. So it's okay to be, in my opinion, it's okay to be alone with somebody to really get to know them. I'm just saying, where are you when you're alone is a big piece. It's okay to go on a one-on-one date at Red Lobster, which I don't think nobody goes to Red Lobster anymore, but we used to go. But that's fine, but it's just like when you're in a place that's going to put you in a tempting situation, that's what you need to stay away from.
Okay, that's time, so I'm going to give y'all real quickly, do y'all have any closing thoughts that y'all would like to leave them with?
Just pick your friends, have good people, not just stay away from the bad stuff.
Think about who your 5 closest people are in your life. That's a reflection of who you are. The 5 folks you surround yourself with, and if you hadn't really thought about who those are, you got to go home and look at it really closely, and think about it, and figure out whether that's if you want those 5 to be a representation of who you are or not, and that can be kind of a sobering thought. So that's what I'd say. And I appreciate you guys listening to me. You don't know who I am. I mean, you have no idea who I am or whether anything I'm saying is worth a flip. But you've been real attentive, and I appreciate it, and I hope something we said is something you can take with you.
Luke, anything to close?
Yeah, I'll just say something real quick. Y'all are tired of hearing me talking by now, but guys, I'm going to talk to guys, I'm going to talk to girls, one last thing. But guys, I see this so often, and I remember it happens so often. Just because a girl is gorgeous, and she is every guy wants a select few girls. Everybody knows who they are. Every school has them, right? But there's more to it than that. Just don't want somebody because that's what everybody else wants. Want it for the right reasons. Want the person for the right reasons. And girls, I'm gonna say the girls, because I see it every day, because I coached softball before too, and had to deal with all that drama. But like, I don't know what it is, but it seems like I've seen so many good girls chase these boys who they don't have no business being around, and the only thing I can figure it out is because they're popular and they may be good looking, or other girls in the school like them, and so there's like this in order to be the king or queen of the school, you feel like you have to go get the biggest and the best or whatever. But that's not what all you're looking for. Don't like somebody because that's who everybody else likes. Like them for the things that we talked about tonight and that are found in the Bible. And if you find that, you don't have to go through 800 breakups. You can just go through, the right one.
All right, so y'all be sure to thank these guys. Two of them drove a long way. I don't know how far away you live. But